The read now from former federal prosecutor and former acting ICE director Jonathan Fahey. Thank you, sir, for a little bit of your time on this Saturday morning. Greatly appreciate it.
Good morning.
Let's start with this Dugan case. It's going to get before a judge, this particular judge, rather swiftly. What do you make of it?
Well, first of all, it is concerning. Again, we have a situation with at least a seemingly politically biased judge starting off this case. But really the real issue here, the legal issue that's going to be addressed most quickly, is this judge has filed a motion to say her case should be dismissed because she has what she calls judicial immunity from being charged at all in this case. And they're piggybacking based on the Trump immunity decision. She's saying she, as part of her role as a judge, this was totally appropriate and she can't be prosecuted. So this motion, and it's been filed by a high-profile constitutional lawyer, is ultimately going to fail, whether it's not in front of this judge or in the appellate court, because they're essentially, if she were to succeed, it would say she can decide what ICE agents can, how they can enforce the law within her courtroom, and it's perfectly acceptable for her to sneak somebody out of the courtroom because she doesn't agree with ICE policy. So ultimately, she's going to lose the motion. But just so you know, we talked about this July 21st trial date. That trial date is not going to happen, and here's why. Because however this motion for immunity breaks down, either side will have an opportunity to appeal that before trial. It's one of the unique cases in criminal law where immunity can be appealed by both sides before trial. So I don't expect this case getting before a jury anytime soon. I ultimately expect she will lose the issue, and the facts, at least as I understand them, are quite compelling against her and her conduct. And it's quite surprising to me that anyone would support this, that she is shepherding out somebody that's on trial for a violent crime to hide them from ICE agents from deporting him. Is truly shocking behavior for a judge or anyone else.
You raised some great points there. She has a very expensive, high-profile legal team. She's making some interesting legal arguments. We shall see. But there's some other things I want to talk to you about. The Supreme Court this week also keeping its order in place to block the Trump administration from deporting migrants under the Alien Enemies Act. Now, this comes just days after a U.S. judge was the first to uphold the president's use of the act. So what happens next?
Well, this is kind of interesting because you've had these judges on both sides decide on the merits of the case. But what's interesting about the Supreme Court's decision, they haven't invalidated this act at all. And if you read the tea leaves, they're basically saying the act is okay, and they're signaling they're going to uphold the act in and of itself and the administration using this act to deport illegal aliens. Their issue really seems to be breaks down to how the administration is applying it, the process, and how much notice people are getting to challenge the act when it's being applied to them. So I think ultimately the Supreme Court will get this on the merits and decide in the administration's favor and probably put in some procedures that must be followed for it to apply. But ultimately, I think it will break the president or President Trump's way on this. But it's sort of been a long road to get there. And what's really unfortunate about this is the Supreme Court says they have issues with the process, but they can't just say, okay, we'll follow this process and it's okay. It seems to be a convoluted way to get to a result. But ultimately, I think this isn't as big of a loss for the Trump administration as some are reporting. I think ultimately he'll be successful on this issue and being able to use this act to deport the most dangerous criminals.
Very interesting. One more thing. This also might seem a little convoluted to some, but Jonathan, also at the Supreme Court this week, there were the oral arguments on birthright citizenship. Now, two-pronged case. The justices weighing not only the president's order to end it, but also the ability of the district judges to block these federal policies. So the word injunctions was talked about a lot. Where do you think the justices will ultimately come down on this?
Well, there are two issues, and really what they were talking about mostly was these nationwide injunctions, which is where a court in a particular district makes a ruling and then essentially says the entire country has to be bound by the ruling, not just the litigants in front of that particular judge. I think the justices are going to have a major problem with the way these injunctions have been ferreted out by, particularly under the Trump administration, which I think were upwards around 40 have come down just during the Trump administration. administration, which in effect allows one single judge in one district to dictate policy for the entire country and to dictate executive policy and also gum things up for a long period of time to prevent the executive branch from implementing their policy. So I think that the Supreme Court's going to have a major problem with that. On the issues of the birthright citizenship, it's a very interesting issue because this comes down to not whether or not somebody was born in the country or not, but whether or not they are subject to the jurisdiction of the United States. And as it's been applied, generally, people have been treated, if they're born here, they're subject to the jurisdiction of the United States and have been citizens. The Trump administration's argument is quite good on this case, which is essentially the whole purpose of this was to deal with the freed slaves after the Civil War. If you were born here, you became a United States citizen. It had nothing to do with illegal aliens coming into the country. So at very least, Donald Trump has done a very good job of putting this issue in front of the American people, because it really doesn't make a whole lot of sense for somebody to come here illegally and have their children become citizens and therefore almost get citizenship for themselves. It really seems like gaming the system. But ultimately, the issue is going to be, is somebody subject to the jurisdiction of the court? And it's not simply are they subject to the laws of the United States, but it's also a loyalty issue, because you could certainly see issues where you have dual citizenship, because somebody could be a citizen from, say, Mexico. They become a U.S. citizen and a Mexican citizen at the same time. And there's certainly conflicts could arise there. So it's not such a clear-cut case against the administration, but ultimately it's quite interesting, and the issue really needs to be discussed, and President Trump's brought that to the forefront.
And a lot of people following that one closely. Jonathan Fahey, thank you so very much for your insights today. We greatly appreciate it.
Thank you.
Hey, it's Will Cain. Click here to subscribe to the Fox News channel on YouTube. It's the best way to get our latest interviews and highlights. And click to subscribe to the Will Cain podcast for full episodes right now.